that this is something that Bizagi's been focused on for a while, but we really want to talk about things just in a more general sense. And I think today the main thing we want to look at is just what exactly is a citizen developer? This term is being used so much. And of course, when we started in the industry, I don't want to, date us here, but when we started in the industry, that term didn't even exist, right? But there were business technologists or other names but these were like the people who were writing the Excel macros and that type of thing. So these people have always been there, but there's also not just one type of citizen developer. And I think that's what can confuse things. What's your sort of perspective on just what we've seen in kind of the history moving into what we have now?
Well, and the history is right. So we kind of always talked about, like, maybe I used to talk about the conversation about being a staff hero, that person that was the problem solver you would go to when you needed something fixed or when you need that super duper Excel macro. And I think that has actually morphed. So these could have been the business analysts, or they could have just been someone who's slightly more technical in any of the other roles. Now, what's happened is that now that there's a demand issue and we have just too much demand for digital applications in our organization, we're really focusing in on citizen developers. And I think organizations are starting to look at this, and there's just some kind of misnomers also that I wanted to talk about, is that this isn't just everyone and anyone. What is a citizen developer is going to be someone who is actually a subject matter expert. And I think that's really important to think about, that this isn't going to be every single person in your organization. I mean, you wouldn't want 3,000 people writing all sorts of little itty-bitty technical apps.
Right. And I think it is that combination of, this is somebody who's, maybe a little technical, but has some analytical skills, and they're working in a business, so they understand the business. So they're solving problems for themselves and for their peers. They kind of see, oh, we have this particular problem. Let me develop something that's going to help us along.
Right. And then even among those, you still have different levels. And so how I think about it is that there's like kind of the larger group of people that maybe aren't as technical. And this is where something like no code comes into play. When you start talking about something that's just configuring and being able to do slightly more technical applications without having to have any kind of analytical knowledge. And that's something that, is pretty much for all the subject matter experts in the organization. They would be able to create something very small and very easy. And then we start going up the scale a little bit, where we start talking about people that have a bit more technical skills. And that's when we start going into maybe power users or the specialists or business technologists. It's kind of how I look at the spectrum. And then you're going to be able to have slightly more technical skills or very specialized skills, all the way up to someone that could possibly have professional IT experience, or actually just be in the line of business rather than actually reporting into IT.
But this comes back to some of the things you were talking about, is you have the different types of, the business hero types, right? And you could have that person who is the one who always wrangles the spreadsheets and the reports at the end of the month so that the manager has the numbers that they need, for example. That's the kind of person who's probably going to be writing some analytical applications and looking for trends in the data and this sort of thing. So some very data focused ones. You'll have other people who are maybe coming from more of the operational sense, is they're the ones that might manage a team, and they see that moving the work from one person to another, it can be very awkward, and that there's better ways to do that. So they're looking at more of a process view. So you can have people who are have more of a view of the process, people have more of a view of the data and the analytics. And it's not like you're going to have just one type of citizen developer, even within one department.
Correct. And actually, I think that might be where you kind of see the traditional role of business analyst is heading maybe towards what you were just talking about, is that more workflow based one. And then we kind of have those citizen specialists that are out there that would be the more analytical ones that, as we said, that those mighty Excel macros, there's a lot of business that's done in those, and a lot. And we need to be able to actually still harness that investment that's already out there, that knowledge that's already out there.
Well, and to be fair, if I'm sure you've written Excel macros too, those are code. That's not, I'm sure we can give them much easier tools than that to write applications than having to hack together Excel macros.
Right. And if they're able to write a macro, I have no doubt that they're completely ready to go from, no code might be where we put the business analysts who are doing more procedural things, up to when we're starting to talk about low code, which is going to include some bits of logic and some kind of scripting that's going to move past some of the capabilities in no code. And I think that's why it's important to kind of look at that there are different sets of tools to go along with this kind of scale of citizen developers, that you have no code, low code, and then what I would call pro code or expert view maybe.
Right.
And it's a sliding scale.
Yeah. And I think that that's an important thing, is to look at those sort of different distinctions.